Hello, Lego Universe, YouTube, all that good stuff. This is Moto. I'm going to try something a little different, and it's experimental, so bear with me. If you do like it, you don't have to you don't have to subscribe, you don't have to smash that alert bell. I just don't care. What I care about is if you leave a comment that this is working for you, that you like it. Comments matter. Taking the time out of your life to actually write something down is the most meaningful thing you can do. It's just too easy to hit that like button. It's easy, but it requires no effort. So if you want to see something like this, or a version of something like this, let me know. What I'm going to do is record my works in progress as I build them, and I'm going to walk through techniques. So anybody who wants to learn how to build better, build like me. I don't know why you'd want to build like me. My stuff is pretty weird. But I'm going to take you through kind of the different techniques that goes into one of my builds. So I'm trying to build a spaceship. I want it to only be 1 or 2 weeks in time. And I started late Saturday. Late Saturday, about 2 hours, I managed to get the engine down to here and the wing attached. And on Sunday, on a live stream, I managed to get this thing, these guys, and I think off camera, I did another quick little blast to jam this thing out. So this is a pair. I'm building a spaceship, so the spaceship would fly that way. And this would be the wings for the spaceship. I'm trying to make a medium-sized build. Medium-sized for me. Now some of you, this is going to be a large set. So the crazy thing with when you do your my own creations or mocks is that the scale can get really, really big. In the AFOL community, you can get builds as large as 6 feet by 4 feet, just these ridiculous sizes. So when I say medium, I'm not talking about a set. This would be a really large set. What I'm talking about is a medium-sized build focused on one thing in 2 weeks. So I like to challenge myself. I like to put a timer on that thing. I like to see what I can do. And along the way, sometimes I discover new connection techniques for myself. And it's just a way to kind of figure out where I am today. Always looking back on it as a historical record, knowing I could have done better, but just trying to learn. So the idea was, I always start with I don't know why, I love building spaceships. So I'm a sci-fi builder. I like making crazy, weird sci-fi things that are magical. But I will point out some of the techniques I used to put this together. All right, so let's start with the engine. This is the core of the engine. And the style of building I'm using is called, well, it doesn't have a name, which is really weird. So I call it clip and bar, clip and bar. There's no studs used for the majority of the stuff. There's some studding in certain places. So this is an octagonal piece that has these little bar elements. And if you look, the Star Wars episode 1 through 3 robots had these arms. But they're what we call clips. Clips are whenever you have an open end and you put it into what's called a bar. So that's why I call it clip and bar, clip and bar. Here I'm using a bone. It could have been, something different, but I thought it would be fun to throw a bone in there. Throw the bell to bone. I'm a dad. I'm allowed dad jokes. Don't judge me. So here's normal system build. System being stud full, stud type connections. I use plates plates are the new brick. Plates are showing more and more and more, and the reason is they're so thin that you can compress your belt and make it more denser and show more detail while still remaining incredibly strong. So I don't use a lot of traditional brick in my belts. I use a lot of plates stacked on top of each other. You know, you always want to overlap or lap that brick for strength. And then I use slopes to kind of give it that curvature. And these are temporary. The reason I did these is kept falling over and breaking stuff. But ideally, what will happen is these guys will come off, and this will be a wing for my spaceship, and it'll fly this way. Okay? But for now, before I attach to the main body, I put these little plates on there just as a stand so I can keep them from breaking. Let's go through the engine. So clip and bar. So every engine has an air intake. I thought it'd be cool to use this hub that naturally has the raised fins. Kind of looks like a turbine that would spin. And then I used a Technic stud pin to get it attached. This is a steering wheel. And then I'm clipping in what are normally claws in there. And I'm a big fan of transparent elements, if you couldn't tell. There's an octagonal piece, more claws, but I'm using them kind of to define a structure. And when I use metallic, I love metallic brick. It's very expensive, it's rare, but when I can get enough of it, I love to use it. And then the robot arm goes into these handlebar pieces, but handlebar pieces, when they are used in an octagon, they lie flush. And they're really a good visual reminder of kind of what, you know, some sort of surrounding steel band engineering solution would be to contain a high pressure environment. And this is the reaction chamber. It's an alien pod. It's kind of out of date. I don't think it's made anymore. And I normally love translucent purple, but this time I'm using trans neon green. So my theme, my color theme, is white. If you use white, all the bright colors stand out a lot more. It's also reflective. That's why NASA uses white. So for spaceships, I think white is the right way to go. It's what NASA uses. Let's keep it real, folks. Semi-real. Imaginary real. Reaction chamber. I love to use this element. It's a basketball hoop. So you can imagine a basketball going through that hoop. But here, it gives this really beautiful lattice work. And you can't see it, but this is a really beautiful, rare, trans cylindrical element. I want to use pink, trans neon pink, or trans pink, as much as I can in this belt. A flower piece. Once again, that octagonal element, but this time in white. There's a clip element, a long bar, also called the umbrella stand, to another clip, another thing, and trans neon orange with a little flame. Because I like it. I like silly stuff. Lego's always been silly. So even though, you know, a real rocket would have huge jets blasting out the back, I went with the lazy one. It was on the Pick-a-Brick wall, which is a great resource if you have availability to it. If you live in a large metropolitan area, the Pick-a-Brick wall is a godsend. No shipping, decent prices for small elements. Pack them in, get a ton. You'll never have to buy them again. But if you notice, I'm starting with blue to pink to orange. So the warmer the color, the lower the energy state. So I always start with like, it's like the rainbow. If you think about energy, it always starts with ultraviolet, violet, and then to a lower energy state, which is then to the red, the orange. And the reason I'm doing this is there's an event coming up where I can shine a black light on trans neon pieces and they glow. So I'm trying to make the glow factor high on this belt. I learned this, by the way, from the Lego Master Show. Flynn and Richard, that team of guys really loves using black light elements to bring out their belts. So I'm going to take a note from the best builders in America right now, and I'm using the most amount of trans neon green to do that. Now here is a bunch of skeleton arms. Bricklink, my favorite go-to place for my habit, for my expensive Lego habit, is to buy a bunch of skeleton arms because they're clip and bar, but they give you this nice angle, but they're also structural. So here, the hand is at 90 degrees to the other hand, and they're connecting to ones where the hand is at the same place. So I love to triple up on those guys. It creates a really strong bond. And you'll notice I'm using the large rod, the umbrella stand, all the way through, because I want the maximum amount of gripping power, clutch power, clipping into that sucker 3 in a row. All of a sudden makes it line up straight. If you do 2, it can be a bit wobbly. 1 is not enough. 3, you know that that's going to be a straight, that bar is going to be set perpendicular to the bar that you're working with. And these come in gold, but they're pretty rare, so I use the gold sparingly, but I do use it. And I use it here, and I go back to white in here. So there is some color choices to be made. A good use of color will definitely tell a story better than not. And then translucent pieces are made with a different type of plastic than the standard ABS. This stuff grips so hard that the Lego designers are not allowed to do translucent to translucent. Because if you do translucent to translucent, it grips so strong you'll never get that sucker apart if you have average hands. Now if you have Technic hands, like I do with big calluses and long fingernails to pry those plates apart, it's not a big deal. But you need to be an AFOL who's snapping Technic down hours and hours and hours and hours in a week to get the kind of finger strength, dexterity. You can also do card magic to work on that strength and dexterity exercises. But I don't expect any of you to do that. That's like if you really want to be hardcore. And then metallic tends to have a stronger grip. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the formulation. But it's also more brittle. So the stronger something is, the more brittle it is. And metallic seems to be the thing that's working for me. But I noticed that the camber, the angle at which handlebars are set, seems to just kind of naturally fit into the diameter or radius or curvature of these alien pods. So you get the illusion that there's a steel band kind of going around, holding it in place. This is a real pressure chamber. A lot of stuff's going on. There's a visual cue that this is high energy. Something's exploding in there, putting off a lot of energy. It's getting transmitted down. And there's this extra structural element. And I wanted to do like a little shout out to the Y-Wing. 1970s, folks. Y-wing is awesome. Clip and bar. Separate it out. Show the flame. Show the energy. And then do a little fan. This is a new piece. This is only like on Batman. It's metallic silver. It's a little fan. Once again, air intake. Atmospheric intake. I know this is in space. It doesn't make sense. That's kind of the thing about it. It doesn't make sense, but it kind of does. Going back to Star Wars, fighter scenes in Star Wars or World War II. Intake, reaction, exhaust. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I popped a piece. Oh, well, it happens. Exhaust. And then I noticed that a lot of the NASA rockets, when they're test firing them, have these Mach waves that form. So I'm going to translucent neon green, pink, translucent neon orange, and yeah, I broke that. That just happened. That was totally awesome. I'm so unprofessional. But that's the cost of doing things at a model scale. These are plastic models, by the way. These are not playable. They're just gorgeous to look at. That's why I like to say I'm a Lego artist. I'm not a Lego master builder. I'm not a set designer. This stuff is just for me. It's just supposed to look pretty. But yeah, you have an exhaust and these Mach waves from highest energy state, which tends to be violet or blue-green, down to green, down to red, or here, translucent pink, down to orange, and then a crown. I don't know why, but ending something in metallic just seems to work for me. Just is so, I don't know, it's so playful. So, clip and bar. Clips, bars, they add a lot of detail in, where stubfold connections just don't have that same effect in person. I used skeleton arms once again to bridge off into this side thing. Now, the really cool thing about Lego is the scale. So these are normally aircraft tails, but I'm using them as wings. And they're just so beautiful. They slope. The element designer for this did a great job. Just beautiful, beautiful detail. You can see there's an aileron. There's a flap in there. There's a mold scar, but it just seems so right. You gotta honor those element designers. I mean, they're just making stuff that can be used in so many different ways. But you always want the secondary wings to be secondary. You want them to be smaller. And that's where this piece comes in. And what's really cool is there's like a shield holder that's transparent for minifigs. Well, that's a bar. It's a bar and then a stud at 9 degrees. So I can do a stud fold connection right here into this tail fin and translate the studs and bars, the clip and bars, into a stud fold, and then go crazy right into this. And repeat it on the other side. And then here, we've got glitter, a new glitter dome, totally awesome. I like to put crystals as my energy source in the middle, trans neon green. This is an épée or a sword. And I'm sorry, I'm working on a mobile device. I know it sucks, but an épée makes for a great antenna. Trans neon green. These are called flag pieces, but I use them as little miniature wings. And then blue is kind of the theme color. Running that through from some elf set stuff. Transparent pieces. White. A little bit darker blue, but I think I pulled it off. And one technique I want to call out is, once again, pixelate focusing. This is, I don't think it has an official name, but this is an inkwell piece, and it allows you to go from a tube to a stud. But it's a little teeny stud. It's a teeny stud that fits inside anything, any tube that has a brick height. So for me, it's the cylinder. That's a male stud. Stud, inkwell to stud. Some people call this the female connection. I call it the tube connection. Tube, wheel, motorcycle, tire element. Gives you another male connection or studful, stud connection into the tube of your next element. And these have to be brick height. It won't work with plates, but it's kind of cool that I go from stud, inkwell, to stud. So stud to stud, female, aka tube to tube. So a lot of things that challenge builders who use mocks is how do I get stud to stud transition compactly? It's that little inkwell connector. Stud, natural, tube, immediate stud to stud, going up to the tube to tube, connected by a wheel element that normally has a tire rubber piece going around it, out. And this time I did a cone. Cone goes down, ski pole. So that's another thing, is that back in the day, you only had antenna elements, but nowadays you have, oh man, this focus sucks. Come on, Pixel. Okay, there we go. You have these things like ski poles in metallic. They just look really cool. They're so thin and gorgeous. And you could finish things off with that or the ape. But yeah, if you like the idea of being able to go female or tube to tube, or if you like studful, stud to stud, you can pull it off with these two different techniques. The tire, the inkwell, and together they make for a great little combo move with a little bit of greebling in there. And here I have a lantern piece. I've got trans neon green. I'm going to hit this under black light, it'll fluoresce. I love dishes. Dishes are my jam. And then my new favorite, these little rounded pieces. They're like bionicle eyes. I don't know what you call them. Call them whatever you want.